Hello everyone, welcome to another Geoguessr tips and tricks video. Today is over Mexico, a pretty hard kind of country with a lot of metas that are hard to learn, but let's just get into these beginner to intermediate tips. I will go over in this one a lot of the big metas. So for region guessing Mexico, the three biggest things I would say is infrastructure, the plants, and the cars. So at least here, Mexican cities and provinces have their own unique taxis. Pretty much every big city, but the most identifiable one is Mexico City's, which is pink on the top. And also, Mexico has short plates that can be very colorful, just like the United States and Canada. So that is something that's able to make sure you're in Mexico instead of like Colombia or Brazil or Ecuador. Because Ecuador also has small white plates, but these could sometimes not be white. Okay, and now for some bit of landscape. Mexico is pretty much divided into three different parts. You have the jungle, the desert, and the mountains. The jungle is pretty much Veracruz and east. The desert is, well, the middle section in the northwest, and then the big mountain section is Monterrey and down, and then here in Durango. When you have pretty much a very flat desert, a non-hilly desert, you're going to be in the Baja California. If you're going to be in a very sparse, somewhat flat, but you could get hills and mountains, the desert, you're probably going to be in the center. But if you have a ton of hills, rocky hills, a lot of trees and like lush things, and also you have some palms, mountainous desert, you're going to be in northern Baja California, kind of like what San Diego is. Okay, now for a little bit of infrastructure. Although this one's not the best infrastructure thing. So Mexico is pretty much divided into three different parts based on infrastructure. The southwest part, or mainly the west part of Mexico, you have red brick architecture. While in the east, you have more, you pretty much just don't have red brick architecture. And especially in Yucatan, you have more like native Mayan architecture. But then up north, you have more American architecture and like walled off areas. You got concrete buildings. You got American style buildings. But then you also have some Mexican buildings as well. But you're gonna be on the American border, and in this case, we're in Arizona. Well, the bordering place, Arizona. But you're pretty much from the Arizona all the way to Texas. Okay, very lush. Well, not super, very lush, but more jungling green round. But when you have like blinding white soil, you're gonna be in the middle of the Yucatan. But oftentimes, on the more coastal areas of Yucatan, it is jungly, but you have just straight roads that just don't have too much going on, and the Yucatan area is very Mayan based. But when you see blinding white soil, you're going to be in the middle of like these two provinces. And then here we have the red brick architecture. Quite a lot of it. You have some here. You have technically some here, some down there, up here. So you're going to be in this western central area, pretty much like it's pretty much the entirety of the west. But the desert's very easy to tell. So you're going to be in like Nayarit to Durango to Guerrero, and just in this overall area. Okay, and here we have just a very flat desert. I will talk about cactus here for a second. When you see cactus, immediately think of Mexico. Argentina has a lot of cactus, but the entirety of Mexico pretty much is covered in cactus. And there's there's so many types of cactus that could use their two region guess very well, but that's a very advanced tip. But especially saguaro cactus, which is this one, you'll see in the very north areas, like near Arizona or on like the Yucatan. But cactus means Mexico. But then super flat desert, you're going to be on Baja California most likely. Probably on an area that's not too close to the mountains like this. Probably one of the best ways to differentiate Mexico from like Colombia or Brazil is the octagonal poles. If you see an octagonal pole, you're in Mexico. Colombia does have them sometimes, but then we have a white plate, so it's not colo. But yeah, octagonal plate not octagonal pole means Mexico. If I've been saying plate this whole time, just disregard it. Something else is that Mexican provinces are very useful to learn. Like here we have Querétaro, which is this province right here. Mexican provinces come up on plates, on signs, on taxis, on everything. And then here is why. These signs in Mexico, you have the shields on the signs saying Mexico, because obviously, but then you have the province name. Pretty much every time you will see the province name. So if you know the provinces, you could just do QRO. That's Querétaro. So then you're gonna be in Querétaro. And since it's mountainous, the mountains of Mexico are pretty much when you see very substantial mountains, you're gonna be Monterrey and down, or you're gonna be in this mountain range here. But this mountain range you'll learn eventually if you get those rounds enough times. But speaking of this mountain range, we have enormous mountains for Mexico, and we're in a pretty big city. Well, decently, it's decently big and developed. But these really big mountains like this are gonna be the Monterrey Mountains, and it makes sense because the city of Monterrey, which is the third biggest in Mexico, has a load of mountains surrounding the city, especially in this southern bit. And then we're in the little valley right here, so that also helps. Similar to some places in Europe, like the Mediterranean or whatnot, when you see rock walls, well, the place is pretty lush, but rock walls means you're gonna be in the Yucatan area. Maybe Campeche, maybe Quintana Roo, but mainly the Yucatan province. And in this case, I'm going 5 again because I put the location down. But yeah, you'll be on the Yucatan province when you see rock. Okay, and this round, if you don't know Mexico very well, you would assume this is the United States, because this does look like parts of the United States. When you move around, that looks like mainly southern Texas. Oh, look, we have a flag there. Like, this is exactly what, like, super South Texas looks like a Laredo area or McAllen. Just this overall area, mainly the rural parts, looks just like this, so we're going to be on the border in Mexico. You can tell because we don't have Texan plates. We have these palms, we have the poles, and Spanish around, we have the one yellow line, but yeah, we're going to be in Mexico, not Texas. Another very easy thing for Mexico to differentiate from, like, maybe this part of the United States or Peru or even the super north of Colombia is these bollards with the black bottoms. The black bottom the black bottom of the bollards means you're in Mexico or Russia, pretty much. And if you know anything about Russia, you don't even need to know anything about Russia. This is not Russia. So you're gonna be in Mexico. So yeah. Alright, that'll be the end of the video. Short and sweet. Mexico is a very hard country. Mexico is a very hard country, so I gave some more beginners or intermediate tips. If you want advanced tips, I would go watch a professional, or go on Plonket or go on Plonket.net for that. But yeah, this is to teach you the ropes about Mexico. And if you want to go more into Mexico, learn taxis, plates, provinces, cactus, buildings, all of that. Anyways, I'll see y'all next time.